Cherubs, this past year I took a break from teaching and art history to study and travel in Italy and the UK. This summer I'll be taking a short break from my usual videos to share what I learned and take a closer look at one of my new favorite art forms: cheese. So quickly, here's how cheddar is made. Milk goes into a vat and is kept a few degrees below body temperature. A starter culture of bacteria is added and the milk starts to acidify. Add rennet, an enzyme found in a calf's stomach which will alter a fundamental protein found in milk, allowing the curd proteins to find each other and distinguish themselves from the whey proteins. The curd is cut to about half the size of a human fingernail, then cooked, a process known as scalding. The whey is drained and the cheddaring begins. The shoebox-sized blocks of curd are flipped around and stacked atop one another until they're flatter, more acidic, and tear rather than crumble. Then they are milled, salted, and put into large molds where they will be pressed. If it's traditional cheddar, the cheeses will be wrapped in large soaked cloth and then aged. Let's rewind for a second and start about that starter culture, the first step. Some cheeses, like Parmigiano-Reggiano, will use the leftover whey from the day before as the starter for the cheese made today. It contains a heritage of bacteria that have been promoted and cultivated over years. When a cheesemaker adds this to the milk, he or she ensures that the flavor-providing bacteria are present in the milk. Then it's time to create the perfect home for the right bacteria to outcompete the wrong bacteria. If we want a Swiss-type cheese, we need to encourage propionic bacteria to make those characteristic holes and give it characteristic nutty flavors. In the case of Parmigiano, the bacteria we need to promote are mostly thermophilic, meaning that they love heat. Other cheeses, like Fontina, require mostly mesophilic bacteria. They prefer things a little closer to body temperature. Cheddar starters should have a mixture of both. Throughout the process, the cheesemaker needs to manage very carefully the temperature and acidity, among other things. These factors affect the type of bacteria that will reproduce and thrive, and therefore affect the flavor of the cheese. If we want cheddar, we want bacteria that will flavor cheddar the best. We need to give those types a loving and comfortable environment so that they may give us a flavorful cheese. It's a beautiful relationship. With a heritage starter, like the previous day's whey, or the one used here at Quick's Traditional, we cannot identify every single bacteria that exists in a culture. There are dozens of different microbes reproducing, digesting, and dancing, and each of those microbe behaviors impact the other type of microbes every second of the make. The macro result of this chaotic waltz, the final product of this interaction, will be a complexity of flavor, and it'll be different every time. It's that complex dance happening at the micro level that makes these cheeses so magical and metaphoric. We can't control nature perfectly. Remember that video I made about Crystal Palace? The cheesemaker cannot direct every micro behavior of every microbe, but he or she can participate in that dance by creating a sympathetic environment, one that lets the best dancers fully express themselves. If we look at it this way, every bite you take of cheese, made in an artisanal process, participates in an otherwise fleeting relationship between an ever-changing microbiome population and the humans who cared for them. It's what remains of a beautiful dance between man and his environment.